Okay. All right. We are live tonight. Thanks for everyone for joining. So we're here tonight. I'm joined once again, his making his second appearance on the channel. We have Aaron from A&B Horror Movies Reviews. How are you doing tonight, Aaron?
I'm doing great. Hi, Josh. Thanks for having me. It's going to be fun.
Always a lot of fun. So what's anything new on your channel of recent? I know you guys have put out a few new videos.
Yes. Let's see. The two newest videos we've done. We had one that was about, gosh, what was it? Where we had snacks. So I went to London in August, and Ben and I actually met up, my co-host, and we
Awesome.
swapped snacks. So he gave me snacks from the UK, and I gave him snacks from the US that you can't get in either place. So that was kind of a fun video to do. And the video that just posted yesterday is a interview with the director and two lead actors from Mind, Body, Spirit, the
Hmm.
new found footage that is streaming right now. So check it out if you haven't seen it.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll have to yeah, I haven't checked those out yet, but certainly will, certainly will.
Yes.
Yeah, so reason we're here tonight is because we're going to have a Hellraiser franchise discussion. And what's ironic, and I didn't know this until I woke up this morning, that today just happens to be Clive Barker's birthday. So no, I did not. When I set this video in motion and
Oh, that's
scheduled
so
this, I
cool.
had no idea that it was his birthday today. So, because without
So
Clive Barker, we would not be having this discussion today or
for
tonight,
sure,
I
for
should
sure.
say.
Is
So
that the
happy
big
birthday.
surprise? Is Clive going to be jumping on?
Yeah, if he, I would have had to double up on my Jack and Coke if that was the case.
Ah, nice. Have one for me.
I would love to meet him. I know he's still kind of doing the convention thing from here and there, but I think he's kind of slowing
Yeah, I
down
think he has
on doing that.
some health issues. Yeah,
Yeah, but
unfortunately. Very talented. And speaking
oh,
of Clive Barker, what is it? A Book of Blood, a
hmm,
that horror, I guess an erotic horror, I would describe it as, directed by John Harrison, was an adaptation of Clive Barker. I think that movie deserves more attention. No one ever talks about it, but
oh,
it's
the
a good
one
one.
that's on Hulu.
Oh, is it on Hulu? I'm not sure. I think
Yeah,
so. Yeah.
but I know the movie. They did like a brief adaptation of three of the stories from the Book of Bloods. It's
Yes. So
th-
this
th-
one is Book of Blood. It's actually the adaptation of the framing story. Remember the guy
okay.
who has the stories written all over him? It's
Uh
kind of
huh.
about that. Yeah. It's good. Check it out if you haven't seen it. I like it.
Absolutely.
Plus,
So
John Harrison's great. So,
excellent. Yeah, with and of course what led Clive Barker, of course, Hellraiser, the first movie was based off his own novella, The Hellbound Heart. And I think the
yes.
reason why he wanted to direct this himself is because there had already been one adaptation of one of his works, Rawhead Rex, which he was not a
Mhm.
big fan of. And I think there might have been another one, so he decided that he was going to do this himself.
Mm.
And it's interesting. Initially, they wanted to call it just the Hellbound Heart, but the studio didn't like that because it made it sound like it might be a romance movie. And I think one title is like a working title.
It
Some
does.
old lady had read the script and she goes, "Well, maybe it should be called What a Woman Wouldn't Do for a Good Fuck." And we are being joined by someone else here.
Oh,
Howdy.
maybe don't call it that.
Yeah, and it's Alistair. Alistair, well, we're live right now. Great to join us. Alistair, meet Aaron from A&B Horror Movies channel.
Howdy.
Hey,
Aaron,
man.
Howdy.
this
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Alistair.
This is meant to be. It always was.
it always was. So, yeah, Alistair's been on the show quite a few times, and we were just talking
Cool.
about it's today happens to be Clive Barker's birthday, so it's kind of
Ooh.
ironic that we're doing this video
No,
today.
not ironic. This was fully planned. Fully
Yeah,
planned, damn it.
yeah, it was planned all along. I just happened to pick this date out of a hat and realized at the last second, oh, it's Clive Barker's birthday. Who knew? But we were like talking about how the initial Clive Barker getting Hellraiser off the ground, and one lady was saying that read his script goes, well, maybe you should call it "What a Woman Wouldn't Do for a Good fuck?" Basically, in response to Julia was like almost like a working title, but he
Yeah,
had also,
Julia is
um,
such a nice person.
yes, she's a wonderful, wonderful person.
Wonderful
Um,
stepmother.
well, and that's the thing, that movie kind of has that fairy tale element to it, with, it's
Mhm.
almost like Kirsty as whatever Cinderella a little bit, and Julia as the wicked stepmother kind of, and they even reference that in the second movie.
Who are the Cenobites? The dwarves?
Some really demented dwarfs at
Are
that.
there 7 of them?
There was
About
in the
4 or 5.
reboot, I think, if
You
I do
can
my
technically
count, which,
say several. And that's a
Several,
weird.
for
That's a
sure.
flexible term. Yeah.
Yes. And the third one, there are a lot of new ones. There are a lot in the third one.
oh yeah, definitely. So where were you? And of course, most of the cast, this is pretty much a British horror movie
Mhm.
outside of Andrew Robinson, who was a fairly well-known character actor at the time, most known for playing the Scorpio killer in Dirty Harry, and
Uh-huh.
then Ashley Lawrence, who was fairly unknown, a young actress at the time. It's ironic because she had done an episode of, I don't know if you guys remember this show called Highway to Heaven
Oh my
with
God, of course. Michael Keaton, yes.
Michael Landon from
Michael,
Little,
yeah, Michael Landon. Oh my God, Michael Keaton. I said
right.
Michael Landon. Yes.
I only
But
know
so,
the Crow Show, Highway to Heaven. That was with the Mark Damascus. That was an interesting one.
I'm like trying to find the right setting here. Let's put you, there we go.
I have power.
I'm
I
putting
am
you
a god.
I'm putting you front and center now for right now. I may switch it up as we go along there, but the way it was cut my face off by half. But
Oh, it was like all vertical.
yeah, so, but and not that anyone's going to complain if that happens, but anyhow, and then you had a lot of trained, theater actresses like, Julia, Claire Higgins plays Julia, and then basically everyone else that worked on that movie were friends of Clive, such as Doug Bradley and everyone else that played the Cenobites, and they just took off from there. So I'll start with you, Alistair. What was your experience the first time you watched the first Hellraiser?
It always had. This was the horror franchise that scared me because I'd always see the covers as a little kid, and they would always be playing it at 10 in the morning on at the FX channel, and I saw like a scene with Frank, and I was like, oh no, oh no.
That
But
thing.
finally, the first I did see good chunks of part 3, and I saw, of course, it went to space. I always
That was
respect the
in part
franchise
4,
going to
yeah.
space. But the first time I was able to see first movie start to finish was when it was on The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs, and
Awesome. Yeah, I've seen that episode.
that's always fascinating because you get the lowdown, you get all the behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
And the legacy information as well. But and then part 2, he did part 2 like a couple of years later.
Exactly. And that one there, he had both Ashley Lawrence and Doug Bradley joined him on studio for that. So that made it even better.
That was wonderful.
Yeah.
What year did Hellraiser come out? I can't. Was it 86?
1987. 87.
87, and then
Made
part 2
in
came out in
88. Came out about a year later, actually.
Wow,
part 2 is
that was
88.
quick.
Okay.
So,
Excuse me.
so Aaron, tell me about the first time you watched Hellraiser.
Gosh, well, it was in the 80s. I was too young to see it in the theater, so I must have rented it on VHS. I was a fan immediately. I don't know. I loved it. And then when the second one came out, we couldn't wait to get it at the video store. I'll never forget that scene where the guy's on the mattress, right, with the razor blade.
Mm-hmm.
Still gets me today. But at the
Oh,
time,
yeah.
it was like, I don't think I've ever seen anything so grotesque.
I
And my
missed
buddies
it.
and I, we all loved it, right? We've been fans
Of
ever
course,
since.
of course.
And exactly. And then part 3 that came out in what, early 90s? 93 maybe? 92?
93, I think it came out. I
93?
think, I think it was 93 because it came out right about the time I graduated high school. I can't remember either right before, I think it was after I had already graduated, but yeah, I do.
Okay.
I remember seeing that one in the theater actually.
Yeah, so 93, I was either a junior or senior in high school, depending on when it came out. I'm dating myself a little here.
Right. I'm
So
definitely
I had
dating
other
myself.
extracurricular things going on with high school, things that you do at that time of life. But I know I rented it and I watched it. I probably didn't come to appreciate it until years later, though.
Yeah, for me, my mom let me rent it one summer because I would live with my mom in the summer, and she was a little bit more open minded, I guess, as far as letting me watch certain stuff that maybe my dad wouldn't. Sometimes it's the other way around, but in this case, this was the case. So it was probably the summer of '88, so about almost a year after the first one came out, she let me rent it, and I of course was expecting your typical run of the mill slasher. I figured, well, okay, this is a guy with pins who's
Mhm,
going to go around stabbing people or ripping people apart.
mhm,
And I found out that's not what it was. And instead of maybe being disappointed, like maybe some people would have been, I kind of embraced it because it gave me another vision of what horror could be. This horror is not always just vampires or slashers. This can be something else. And I was 14 at the time when I watched it,
mhm,
and I don't know. I think even at that age, I was able to kind of appreciate a little bit what this movie was doing, because from start to finish, that movie has a very icky, disturbing tone almost
yes.
throughout the movie, even as something
Mhm,
as simple as Larry and Kirsty having lunch together in a restaurant, you still kind of feel
yeah.
like something is off here. Something's like really, and then
Mhm,
you throw in the practical effects by Bob Keane are just, I mean, they rival that of Rick Botine from The Thing, or Rick Baker from The Howling, or of course the legendary Tom Savini. They're up there in that league, as particularly with Frank's resurrection scene.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I mean, it was like nothing we'd ever seen at the time.
Oh yeah,
I, like I said, I was sold the first time I saw it.
Can you
Hey,
exactly.
imagine?
Josh, I have a question. So a friend of mine wants to watch this. How do I give them? What's the link to the live stream?
Oh, link to the live stream. Let me give me 1 second here, and I'll throw this
No.
out in the chat first. Let me find that real quick.
All right, cool. I don't know if he'll stay on too long. He's over in the UK. It's not my co-host. It's another friend.
Oh, that's fine. We'll get that out there. I guess I should have, like, when I should have, instead of just giving you the StreamYard chat, I should have probably also thrown in the YouTube chat. Duh.
Oh yeah, if you want to message it to me on Instagram or put it in the chat on here. Anyway, I took the I digress.
Now, can you imagine doing your
Digress.
first movie and it's Hellraiser?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
going from
well, I don't know if you can see the chat. If not, I'll.
I see the private chat. I don't see. Oh, here.
Do you see
Yep.
it? All
Yes.
right, there you go.
Cool.
But as you were, go ahead, Alistair. What were you? Yeah, about it being the first movie they did. It was almost like Carpenter. Well, Halloween wasn't Carpenter's first film, though, was it? That was Solo in
no,
Mhm.
Precinct 13, and he had done the Elvis movie. But yeah, talk about
Mhm.
hitting it out of the ballpark on his first movie.
what was it? If it's true, he had tried to rent a book, how to direct a movie from the library, but they were
Hmm.
currently sold out of it. But
Yeah,
I mean, it blows my mind. Like, all right, you have now a big studio movie, you have a cast, and it just your first time, and then you make Hellraiser. It's
yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah. I think the studio gave him for about like $1 million to make that movie, and they grossed, I think, 15 million, which really is pretty good when you think of the profit margin there, and especially for a horror movie. And I think they released the first one in I think it was September because I think it was a few weeks ago that I saw that it was on its anniversary date. It's coming up before too long. It's going to come up on its 40-year anniversary. I always, I mean, that movie just hit all the notes there. You had, for starters, it kind of plays with you. You think Pinhead, or as I like to call them, the Hell Priest and the Cenobites are the main villains, but it's really Julia and Frank, and those are probably two of the most underrated, I guess, villains in horror, especially Julia. Because when you think of female villains, maybe she's not the first one you think of, but
There
man,
needs to be more.
there's absolute from the first time we meet Julia, we know that she is one evil little bitch for the most part. She's just nothing redeemable about her. And then on top of that, on the opposite, you have um, Ashley Lawrence. I think for me, Kirsty's the best. I mean, it's all subjective when you say best, but I think she's the best final girl because think about it. Most final girls have one villain they have to deal with. She had to deal with her Uncle Frank that's back from the dead, her wicked stepmother Julia, plus an army of Cenobites, pretty much all by herself because her boyfriend in the movie is about as useless as can be. She even pushes him out of the way when she's having a little slap fight with the I don't know what the fuck, the engineer, I think is what he's called. And she literally pushes him out of the way and says, I got this.
If you say she's the best final girl, you'd have an argument. But if you say top five, zero argument. She goes
Well, yeah,
to hell.
yeah.
She
Like
goes
I
to
said,
hell
best.
in part two
Oh,
to
yeah.
try to
I mean,
save her dad.
right. I mean, best, like I said, is subjective. You can make a good argument. A lot of people will say Ripley for perfect reasons, obviously. You can say who really, I mean, there's a lot of really good ones, but she's
Mhm.
definitely top tier for sure. And I see we do have someone in the chat. Say hi. Um, for those, we
Hey, Adam.
have,
Howdy.
yep, we have Adam. Thanks for coming in. Feel free to, if, tell you what, if you're the one that subscribes to this channel, you're going to be the 100th subscriber because I know I was at 99 as we started this stream
Oh.
Oh,
there.
hell
So
yeah. That's cool. Congrats, man.
I think we have another person on. So if you end up joining those in the comment section, let us know who's out there so and say hi.
Hey,
We're just talking.
if you hit the number 100, chains are going to come down from the ceilings. Okay.
With
And rip
hooks.
you apart. We have such sights to show
Right,
you
right.
tonight.
And Clive Barker will join for his birthday.
Oh.
I wish if I had if Clive Barker
I know, I
uh
joke.
if I know if Clive Barker, Doug Bradley, and Ashley Lawrence all joined on this scream, um, I could
Oh.
probably finish this video and die and rest in peace. My mission in life would have been fulfilled. But
Well, you
now,
never know,
granted,
man.
I
We
did
can
meet.
dream. We can all dream.
Yeah. Well, I did meet Ashley at a horror con earlier this year, so I still need to meet Doug and Clive. But
Oh, that's awesome. Actually, since I knew we were doing this, I pulled out the autograph I got of
Ooh.
Doug Bradley. He wrote, "To Aaron, see you in hell." That's cool.
I
He was
got.
so nice to meet in person. He was
Oh,
really
I
soft
bet.
spoken and just kind of chill. It
I
was cool.
can't reach it from here because it's way on the top of my wall, but I have the one, Ashley, that says Josh, much love, Ashley Lawrence. But
Oh, I hope to meet her one day. Hey, look, Adam, subscribe, man. I think you just hit 100.
Oh.
congratulations, Adam. You are the 100th subscriber to my channel. You don't win anything, just
I was just going to say,
give
what's
you
the
an
prize?
attaboy.
I was gonna say if you got any spare Lamont configurations, get the shipping info.
I wish.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah,
Talking
I mean,
final girls, Adam.
Yeah.
A little bit.
but yeah, I mean, yeah, so you had all the elements. You had the really mean villains, the real villains, which are Frank and Julia, and there's nothing redeeming about those two. You have these
For sure.
cool ass demons that, yeah, they're villains, but they're just doing what they do. It's pretty much their job. You open the box, you're fucked. It's not our fault.
Not
And then
not all the time, not all the time, because
not
part
all the time.
two, yeah.
Well, we
Oh
see
yes,
this
she
we
opens.
see we see
Yeah.
this evolve over time, how the rules kind of change a little bit. You have a great
Mhm.
final girl, great performances, I think, by all the actors. I mean, Andrew Robinson, is going to he pretty much gives a dual performance as both himself as Larry, who's this goofy, awkward, but yet good-hearted man, and then he has to play his brother, who's basically has just a total sociopath, basically, and he's basically out for himself. So,
Mhm.
Oh, the
and that
way
was a
he
creepy scene in itself when he's chasing after Kersey in Larry's skin,
the
Oh
delivery
gosh,
on the
yeah.
line, Jesus wept,
Yes.
phenomenal,
which
phenomenal.
he ad libbed. He actually,
Right, I was
I
just going to
forget
say
what
it wasn't scripted. Yeah.
no, and I can't remember what the actual script was, but
Hmm.
he just ad libbed it, and Clive was like, "Yeah, let's go with that."
Yeah, it worked. Adam, have a tequila shot for me. For all of us.
I got beer on the way, man. I'll do that in the
Ah,
future.
very cool. Very cool. I have ice
But
water.
yeah,
I'm not as fun.
yeah, that's wonderful there.
Mm.
Um, but
You
yeah,
know,
I mean, what was
go
like
keep going.
to you guys? What was probably to Aaron? What do you think the most? What was like your favorite scene of that movie that really sticks out to you and says, "Wow"? Guess your favorite scene of the movie, or
Oh
two
gosh.
scenes.
Well, the scene in the attic when he starts to come together, the effects are
Mm,
fantastic, right?
yeah.
That I mean, wow, that's amazing. And one scene that just popped into my head is when they're moving the furniture upstairs and
Mm-hmm.
the nail cuts the guy's
Oh
hand.
yeah.
Oh, it's so like cringe, right? Even thinking about it,
Anxiety.
like cringe. And knowing, right, knowing that having now that I've seen it, now we know what happens. Watching
Mm-hmm.
that moment happen because that's what kind of starts it all. Um, so I'd say those two scenes.
Oh yeah.
What do you
What
what do you
about?
guys think about sort of the effects they add in at the end, like the
Ye-
lightning bolts that look
Yeah.
sort
I
of
mean, they're
I
cartoonish?
not.
love it.
They're certainly a little
You
bit
love it, yeah,
dated. I
yeah.
guess they they basically ran out of money, and they just had to do the best. It's one of those things I can forgive in a movie
Hmm.
because it's a low budget movie to begin with, so I'm willing. It's like when they were overdubbing the voices, which is another thing because it was mostly a British cast, and for whatever reason they decided to overdub with American. But to me, as awful as the overdubbing is, it almost adds to the dreadfulness, the dreadful tone of the movie, kind of. But what'd you think, Alistair?
I love cheesy special effects, like what was it, like in Highlander, the when they cut the heads and
Hmm.
the quickening comes in, you
Mm-hmm.
just see that weird ass force field and stuff. Man, glowing eyes, that's a big one. Didn't happen in this movie, but I love some good glowing eyes. But
Oh,
Yeah.
no, but my favorite part in the first film, it's gotta be when Chrissy tries to do negotiate, like
mm-hmm.
before the Cinnabons
Oh
take her.
yeah,
Wait,
yeah, yeah.
wait, you know this guy? He's my uncle. He's still alive. And it's like
Yeah,
trying
that
to. Mhm. Oh no,
yeah,
go ahead.
that's my favorite scene too.
Mm,
Besides that and Frank's resurrection, but yeah,
mm,
when we're first introduced to them, I mean, they have a brief appearance at the very beginning when Frank's ripped apart when he opens the box, but that scene there where Kirsty kind of like stands her ground a little bit, I guess, and kind of thinking on her feet. Another thing that makes her a good final girl. But yeah,
mhm.
I like that scene too, and some great lines from Doug Bradley.
Oh,
Agreed. Yeah.
indeed.
So
Cool.
moving on then. So we know that one's definitely a classic. Um, at least I consider it to be. Is probably my favorite of all time. So now we move on to Hellraiser 2, which actually came out, I think, from what I can remember, right after Christmas of '88. I know this because it was Christmas break, and I remember them. I saw the preview for Hellraiser 2 coming out when I went and saw Halloween 4 in the theaters, and they showed the preview. I'm like, I am not waiting to see this on video. I'm definitely going to see this in the theater. And whereas in Halloween 4, they didn't card me,
Uh-huh.
I knew they would to try and get in because, like I said, at the time I'm 14. So I ended up buying a ticket. I've said this story many times. I bought a ticket to some Christmas movie. I don't remember what it was. It might have been a Disney movie. And then I snuck in to see Hellraiser 2. So that movie was like everything. It obviously expanded the universe. I think I still like the first one a little bit better because my only critique of the second one is I think that the OG Cenobites were taken care of way too quickly by the Chenard Cenobite. I thought that should have been a much bigger fight scene than
Excuse
what
me.
it ended up being. But maybe once again, maybe they ran.
Yeah.
I know once again they ran into some financial issues at the end. So, and I like the Chenard character because he almost, to use a Halloween analogy, he's almost like the anti Loomis in this story. Whereas, in a way, and I only say that because I once wrote a crossover story between Hellraiser and Halloween, so that's why I make that comparison.
Cool.
But that was like my first thing that I ever wrote. But and it crosses
Awesome.
paths, and in it, Loomis and um, Chenard actually cross paths briefly at Smith's Grove. But I digress. Um, but
Can I,
yeah,
can I interject quickly? I can relate to trying to sneak into movies not being old enough because
go
my
ahead.
cousin and I bought tickets to Look Who's Talking, and we were going to go see Shocker, Wes Craven's Shocker.
Right.
And the ticket person followed us in and made us go in to see Look Who's Talking.
No.
So I got to see Look Who's Talking on the big screen. I did not see Shocker on the big screen.
You couldn't wait a couple of minutes, go to the bathroom, and then.
No, this woman was fierce.
Well, see, what I did is I went into the theater that I bought the ticket for because that movie was starting like 15 minutes before Hellraiser 2 was
Okay.
going to
Oh, that's
start.
smart.
So I went in there first, and then after about 10 minutes, when it's about 5 minutes till, I figured, okay, I'm going to act like I'm going to go to the restroom, and I'm going to sneak in. Hopefully the theater isn't full because this is way back before you had like, assigned seating or like you can do today.
Yeah, imagine that, right?
Fortunately, it was probably like a Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon. I can't remember. It was a weekday afternoon. And I just know I was out of school because it was spring break or Christmas break. And the theater, because it was early in the afternoon, it wasn't very busy. Not the type of movie that, parents are taking their kids to on Christmas break anyway. So I was able to find a seat somewhere and no one was checking. So I was good.
Yeah. So
I will say, even in current day, I remember for Avengers, I snuck in and no one sits in the front row. So that's always a good bet. Any showtime you want.
Oh, yes. Yes. Although I did see The Substance in the theater recently and our seats would not recline. So we ended up moving to the front row to find a seat that would recline. So I watched it. That was an experience.
I still need to see it, man. My next,
it's really good.
My next theater outing is going to be next week for Terrifier.
Me too. What night are you going?
Oh wow!
Friday. I'm taking a friend who has not seen part 1 or 2, so I got to try to explain everything.
There should have.
I hear the first 9 minutes are crazy.
That wouldn't surprise me if it was.
Listen, I had a friend warn me about part 2, but when I saw it, I went to my friend and I said, "Art is just a rascal, He's just up to some hijinks,
I didn't think part 2. Not to get off. I didn't think part 2 was. I mean, I don't think it was any more gruesome than the first one. Speaking of Terrifier, so I'm like, I didn't get all this. People are throwing up in the theater or passing out. I'm like, did you not see the first one where he saws a girl from half from her, you know what, all the way down. Like
Yes.
what?
It's classic advertisement. I can't blame them.
Oh yeah, I'm
Oh, of
sure.
course, they're jumping all over that. But the difference in part two, I will say, is that the kills are extended. Like that one kill in the bedroom,
The
you know, the
bedroom.
infamous
Mhm.
one. The cut in half in the first one is tough to watch. The one in part two is even more difficult, I
Yeah.
think, because it keeps going. You know,
Yeah, maybe that's probably the part that people are all, I don't know,
even like
crazy
the
about.
salt when he comes back with salt, it's like, oh my god. Anyway,
That's fun. So getting back now to another grotesque movie, Hellraiser 2, you know, Aaron, what was your impressions, especially, I mean, you had talked about when he brings um
the patient, right?
guy, the
Who thinks
patient
he
in to cut
has,
himself up to get
yeah, it
freaking,
gives him like the scalpel or the razor blade. What is it? A
yeah, razor
scalpel?
blade. It's a razor blade. It's a straight razor blade.
Yeah, yeah, that, and then like when Julia's skin comes off, um, when you realize it's not Julia.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I don't know. I mean, some of the effects in that are a little dated, but I still love it. Dr. Chenard is such a great villain. In fact, I was working recently on a list of villains that deserve to be horror icons, and I put him on the list, Dr. Chenard. Um,
Yeah, and he's
mhm,
every bit as evil when he's human
mhm.
as he is when he becomes this like
Yeah,
almost like a
absolutely.
mega Cenobite or whatever. Like
Yeah.
Oh, Aaron,
absolutely.
can I ask your list? Was it villains in mainstream horror movies or unknown horror movies?
A combination.
Combination. All right.
Why do you ask? What would you add to the list? Give me
Uh,
some suggestions.
Now, my favorite movie, Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
Oh, of course, Leslie Vernon's on there. Yep. I've got Cropsy from The Burning.
That
Yeah.
Cropsy's a good one.
Let me see. I have it right here. Jacob Goodnight from played by Kane and See No Evil. Dr. Carl Hill in The Reanimator.
Oh,
B-
definitely.
Bagul from Sinister. Uh, I put that red demon in Insidious.
You
I've got like
did make a comeback. Yeah.
the Babadook. I put it on. I don't know. I was kind of having fun with it. Gabriel and Malignant, the little tumor guy.
Oh,
Yes.
that's a good one.
Right.
Definitely.
I think that's it. Black Phone, the grabber, but I mean that's almost too soon. I put the man in Hush, the masked guy, the Hush movie.
Yes, yes. That got to Shutter recently.
Yes, and a physical copy. Screen
Yes.
Factory. I pre-ordered a physical copy.
I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm just waiting for other Netflix stuff to get here too.
Oh yeah, me too. Speaking of Netflix, I don't want to get ahead of things, but I did pick up
Go.
the DVD of the Netflix Hellraiser,
Oh,
and I was in London for work, and they had it at HMB. And it was only £5. Can't beat that. Cool, huh?
No, not at all. So yeah,
I
that's a good find. That I
I
need to get that. I need to add that to my Hellraiser physical media collection. Um, but Alistair, you had mentioned a little bit earlier about the rules of the box. If you wanted,
yes,
how that
yes.
kind of
And
changed from movie to movie, talking about Hellraiser 2.
yes. I know in part two, Julia and Frank tricked a girl. I forgot her name, but she had opened the box.
Oh,
But
the
when
little girl, right?
Cenobites get there, they're like, "No, we don't come by. We're not here for the hands. We're here for the desire." And then they end up going after Frank and Julia.
Well, it was actually Chenard and Julia,
Oh,
actually, but
Chenard and
yeah,
Julia. That's
yeah,
Yes.
Frank's already there in hell, but
right.
Mhm.
And then
So yeah, that the "I'm in hell" message that's in the beginning, right? Is that Frank or her
that's Frank.
father?
Now,
But she
Kirsty
thinks it's her
thinks
father.
it thinks
That's
it's
right.
her father, which of
Yep.
course, and I've heard Peter Atkins actually wrote the screenplay for this, and at first they were wanting Andrew Robinson to come back to play Larry, and he decided not to because he just didn't think there was much more for his character to do, and Peter Atkins thought that was a blessing because it's like, well, Larry wouldn't be in hell anyway because he wasn't a bad person. So it kind of like made his job easier writing that screenplay. But I kind of think, and this is a theory I have had. I was going to talk about it a little bit in the first movie, but I thought I would wait till we got to the second part. They've never really come out and said this out loud, but I've always got the sense, going back and seeing Hellraiser enough times to figure out that I kind of believe that Frank obviously has this obsession with Kirsty, and this is what
Mhm.
makes. All right, let me first go back to the Hellbound Heart. They made some changes. One of the changes was in the book, Kirsty was basically just a friend to Larry, who was in the book called Rory. They decided to change it to his being her daughter, which I think was
Mhm.
the right move because it made a lot more things impactful. One of those being Frank's obsession that he has, obviously, with Kirsty that we see in the first one. It's kind of my belief that they never say this out loud, but more than likely, and a lot of people share this opinion, Frank probably, when Kirsty was younger, probably at the very least attempted to get, shall we say, inappropriate with her.
I uh,
Hence,
I don't know if attempted, but he definitely would be willing to.
yeah.
I got that vibe, like
Mhm.
he's not really against the thought.
But if he did try to at some point, maybe he was, maybe she got away and maybe that's why he's still obsessed. It's probably where the come to daddy is probably a trigger for Kirsty. I'm thinking that
Mhm.
it's something that she suppressed. And when Frank says come to daddy for the first time to her, it probably brings back that memory and that's why she's so horrified at Frank. I bring this up because in the second one, my favorite scene is when Kirsty has this confrontation again with Frank and instead of being scared of her, she's kind of outsmarts him and kind of stands up to him. And it's almost like plays out like the victim standing up to her former attacker. And I really like, if that's true, I really like that because that gives Kirsty a much bigger arc between these two films because she's
Mhm.
now stand up to her inner fear or whatever. And because, she ends up defiantly burn, she says, I'd rather burn and burns Frank's little house to the ground or and he ends up his skin ends up melting again then Julia shows up but
Yeah, yeah.
that's just a theory of mine and a lot of people kind of go along with that theory and if that's true that just kind of makes that character that much stronger of a character I guess.
I was always curious. In a lot of the movies, they want the box. Why is my
Yeah,
question.
I
Mhm.
think they kind of explain that a little bit in three and we'll get to three here in a little bit. um
Yeah. Okay.
a little bit, or rather, yeah, the character Elliot Spencer kind of explains why they seek the box so much. But other than that,
I
getting
mean,
back
if
to two,
it's
at least in two, Kirsty has some competent help this time around.
Mhm.
The character of Tiffany, she's got her for a short time. There is the younger doctor, but he makes a poor decision regarding
Mhm.
Julia, and he meets his match. But
Yeah, doesn't end well. Doesn't end well. Yeah,
who
Hell.
incidentally, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I love Hellraiser 2. I think it's probably one of the best horror sequels out there. And some do argue that it's better than the first.
Yeah, I've heard that.
It ups the game. Your favorite characters are back, even the evil ones. And
Mhm.
we have the Dr. Chenard, who's a perfect villain.
Exactly.
I love it. I
It
think it makes a perfect double feature. Whether
it
one's better
does.
than the other, they're they're
It,
both excellent. I think. Go ahead. I'll stop talking.
no, I was gonna say too. It's really more of a continuation. It's a lot like Halloween and Halloween Two, or
Hmm.
Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, where you have one movie basically takes over right where the last one left off. So it really does feel like you're watching one whole movie.
Yeah, sure. Hmm.
So what was your were you gonna say something, Alistair?
Yeah, I was just saying if the box to people searching it represented, ultimate pleasure and pain,
Hmm.
I'm just saying, man, you can go to the store, get yourself a case, put on a fight. I mean, that's pretty good. I don't need no box.
Well, I think the whole idea for the story came from Clive Barker, who has a little bit of a lifestyle of himself, visiting, and I say that with
What's
all
in the box?
all due respect. Um, he visited a lot of these underground S&M clubs or whatever. So I think the whole concept of pain and pleasure, it was the kind of the concept for the Cenobites. And
Mhm.
as well, someone who's going to be here, my friend Mindy would say, and she told me to make sure I mention this. They found they wanted the design of the Cenobites to be repulsively glamorous, and
Yeah.
that that's
Mhm.
pretty much what they got there in both this design, and we'll talk about the reboot here before too long, but that's kind of what they
Mhm.
were going for. That's why they're all leather clad and all that. So it really came up with the ideas he would see in S&M, in these underground S&M clubs.
I would
Yeah,
hate
they,
to
they
meet the
s-
Dom who inspired Pinhead.
yeah,
Exactly. So,
some sexy horror in there.
oh yeah. And well, and that's another thing too with the Hellraiser series, and that's probably something that the later movies got away from, was not only just the pain and pleasure aspect, but the first two movies, even though technically there isn't really a whole lot of sex or nudity in those movies, there's a lot of sexual tension in those
Mm.
movies. I mean, I didn't mention it when
Oh
we were talking
yeah.
about the first one. First one, they did have to cut some scenes out to get the R rating, and one of them I think had I won't get too graphic, but it involves spanking or whatever. It's like it's okay to show a guy get ripped apart, but we can't have any spankings or whatever they were doing
uh,
Did
regarding.
they save those scenes? I'm gonna check my Arrow edition, see if it's got some
Unfortunately,
deleted
no.
scenes.
I
I
No.
wish.
always say if you want to go from PG-13 to R, just flash a little nip.
Yes. We all
And
know
if
the
you want to go
Scream
to
quote,
R
right?
and X, we know what not to do. But yeah,
I heard that Terrifier 3 got an X rating in
Oh, it's
France.
I'm
unrated.
sure it did. I'm sure it did.
I
What's
mean,
that?
it's released unrated. I think
Oh,
part two
here
was the
or
first
okay.
mainstream movie to be released unrated. They had tried to do that with Hatchet 2, but they pulled the
Mm.
plug like after the first showing.
But
Oh, really?
well, maybe here it's unrated, but in France they've um, I think only 18 and up or something. They put like an adult rating on it, which is the first time they've ever done that for a horror movie. I read.
Really? Especially in
In
France,
France, or
because that's like the land
No,
of
that's
extreme
what I saw.
horror.
Maybe it's not true, but that's what I saw.
no, because part two it was definitely you had to be 17 and up only because it was
Oh, is it?
unrated. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the
Well, whatever.
franchise beat its own record.
I
Okay,
will be
there you
right
go.
back, guys.
Yeah, okay,
Uh,
no problem.
it is good. It is good to meet you, man. I always try to socialize amongst the
Yeah, for
horror
sure.
community.
Are you do you have a YouTube channel? Are you on Instagram?
Let me see. I'm on Evil by Default, but we're kind of on a hiatus right now.
Oh, okay. Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I am a co-host of A&B Horror Movies. My buddy lives in the UK, so he is asleep at the moment. Otherwise, he would be here.
When do you all record?
A bit of a challenge. Usually on the weekends. We've
Weekends.
actually done interviews with folks in Australia, which was that
Ooh.
was tough. But it's tough because a lot of people are in California. So I'm on
Uh-huh.
the East Coast, so they're 3 hours before me, and Ben is 5 hours ahead of me, so he's 8 hours from them. So I'm always like, could you do 10 in the morning or 11 in the morning? Usually they're pretty accommodating for the most part. So
No, man,
we
I'll chug back.
record we record on the weekends. Yeah, check us out, A&B Horror Movies.
Andy,
We
I'm adding
just
you all right now.
we just did an interview with the director and the two lead actresses from Mind Body Horror, the
Uh-huh.
streaming found footage film that's out right now. It was cool. We just posted that yesterday. It was really cool to chat with them.
Oh, All right. Yeah, I see that one. It's the first one that popped up.
Yeah, that's us. Yeah, cool. Thanks, man.
Okay, I'm subscribed.
Oh, hell yeah.
Uh-oh.
Cool. Appreciate it.
Uh-oh, I'm the 100th prescriber. Ah. No, you guys got holy crap, you guys got a
Chains
lot.
are coming. Yeah, we've done pretty well. We've been a lot of work though.
Heck yeah.
Thank you.
Heck yeah.
Oh, excellent.
And you're back.
Yes, I am back. I had to take care of something real quick. So, yeah, we talk about now, like I said earlier, I expected the first Hellraiser when I saw it would be just another slasher movie. Well, now we come to Hellraiser 3, and that's definitely more of what we would have called an early 90s slasher movie for sure. Um,
Mhm.
it's interesting. I have like a special box set, and I did not know this until I was rewatching these movies. But in Hellraiser 3 does have in the special features part, there is an uncut version of Hellraiser 3 that has a
Really?
few extra scenes in it. It doesn't really add that much more to the movie, but that was just a little tidbit. If you have
Oh yeah, I've got
this,
the Arrow edition.
I think so. I think that might be it. It,
This has
it was
got
a
the alternate unrated version, 97
yep.
minutes
hmm It's just a
versus
few
93 minutes, so 4 minutes extra.
yes, 4 extra
Mhm.
minutes. Basically, it has. All I will say is it has 2 extra exposed breasts in the uncut version. So for
For
those who want to know,
for 4 minutes. Good to know.
not for the whole 4 minutes, but it's one of the extra scenes there.
Can't imagine why they cut that out.
You're just
I
like,
don't know
guys, I
why
gotta go
either.
right now. I'm popping this in.
It it was nothing. Let's put it this
I'll be
way.
back in 4 minutes.
It wasn't anything any more gratuitous that you would have seen in any run-of-the-mill Friday the 13th film or anything like that. So I
Sure.
don't know why they ended up trimming that out or whatever. But so I mean, 3 is definitely a much different tone.
Mhm.
I guess my critique, I mean, with 3, it's something that a Hellraiser movie shouldn't be, and that's campy, which it's certainly by the time we bring in these new pseudo Cenobites, it is. But I'm willing, but still, it's a fun movie. It's definitely for someone you might want to introduce first time to Hellraiser. Maybe it's the first one you want them to watch. I will say, at the very least, Hellraiser 3 does. It's still connected very well to the first 2, and it explains how Pinhead could come back. And
Mhm.
we get a little bit more backstory to Elliot Spencer, who once again kind of like explains to what Alistair was saying about why people are wanting the box. Kind of explains it a little bit because he was, in his case, World War One veteran, awful. He sees all these awful things in war, decides humanity's not worth it, and he wants to go explore the most extreme forms of pain that he can find, and of course he does. So that's some of my thoughts. I thought the final girl in that one, trying to think of the character,
Oh,
Joey
I love that actress. What's her name? Keep talking.
Terry
I'll look it up.
Farrell. She was in Star
Yeah,
Trek
yeah.
Deep Space Nine. So, which ironically, Andrew Robinson appeared on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. So
Yes. Wasn't she a Nip Tuck too? Is it the same actress?
I never saw that, but
Oh, you gotta
anyhow,
watch
she
that
did a
show.
good
It's good.
job. The guy who plays JP, this young guy who buys the statue, who's a real douchebag. He's kind of like almost like a younger,
Oh no, I
lesser.
was thinking of the Paula Marshall. I was thinking of her.
Oh, okay. Yes, she plays like
She
the one
was
that's
in
constantly
Nip
smoking.
Tuck.
Yeah,
Yeah, the drugs, right?
right. And she was also in Warlock 2,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
was directed by Anthony Hitchcock, who also directed Hellraiser 3. So a little, um, kind of a little bit of a relation between Warlock 2 and Hellraiser 3 for those who've watched the Warlock movies.
And she was in Malignant. How did I miss that? Who was she
Oh,
in?
Really? She was? I'm going to have to rewatch that now.
Who was she
Paula
in
Marshall.
Malignant? I have no idea.
Could she have played her sister? or her stepsister. I wonder.
No,
Could
the
that have
sister
been
was
her?
super young.
Just says Beverly. I don't know.
Maybe it must have been a small part. Maybe she played like one of the nurses that got killed off by Gabriel
Maybe.
in that big slaughter scene, or maybe she was like one of the cops that got killed off.
She's been very active. I'm surprised. I'm looking at IMDb on my iPad. I apologize.
So we just now
keep,
have
keep
learned more
going.
about Paula Marshall, but yeah, she played the character I think Terry.
Yes.
She was the one that was like JP's girlfriend, and she leaves him, then goes back, and she becomes like the cigarette smoking Cinnabite, just smoking out of her throat or whatever.
Oh, yes.
And of course, JP becomes like drill head or piston head or something like that.
And I
I will
love the
say
one who compact disc
the
Cenobite, which
seedy
is a little
head.
dated now. The CD throwing them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, kids watching this nowadays were like, "What are those
What
things?"
are those shiny
The
things
most wonderful
flying?
thing. It's like records, but on steroids.
Yes. Yes.
No kidding. And that was,
That's
I will say
hysterical.
this, that movie might have put the Hell Priest slash Pinhead on the top 3 or top 4 as far as committing the most kills out of any of
Mhm.
our major villains. I think Jason's still on top and Michael might be second, but Pinhead's now in the solid 3 just because he killed about 300 people in that one.
In the nightclub, right? Oh
Yeah, the
yeah, yeah.
boiler room.
The
Now
boiler
that
room nightclub. Mhm.
that was, I mean, that's definitely such a 90s. I mean, you talk about being a little bit dated. That's such a 90s looking club. And then, of course, you have the nice fancy restaurant on top of it. But
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
It reminds me.
I always refer to the final act right in the streets. It's almost like an Avengers movie, but with Cenobites, because it
oh,
just
I know
gets
they're
so
just blowing
It's
shit
crazy.
up.
wonderful. It's
Things are
wonderful.
blowing up. Yeah, classic.
And that movie got really I mean, it did well in the theaters actually, but got really popular, I think, on USA Up All Night because they would
Mm.
show that with Gilbert Gottfried when he was doing that. And he even had Doug Bradley dressed as Pinhead making a little cameo during that. It became like the MTV Hellraiser movie, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
because
Didn't
it
they
had
do
even
a
had.
pin? Go ahead.
Yeah, Motorhead did the music video to. I think Ozzy wrote the song. He did his version. Motorhead did a version, and they did a video with Pinhead and Lemmy playing poker or something like that.
And didn't they do a Pinhead like bit with one of the MTV Video Music Awards back then?
Yeah, with
I,
David
I
Spade, where he shows up and says,
yeah.
he goes, "You're not on the list," or whatever.
He won't let him in, right? That's good. That's funny. So, what do you guys think after Beyond the Third? And the first
He
three are
went.
probably my favorite ones, but
He went to space. He went to space. He
went to
went to
space.
space.
Yes.
I'll say
So did
this about
Jason.
Bloodline. Bloodline's actually my third favorite in the series. I put it ahead of 3.
Mm.
Because all right, let's be honest. All right, yes, they say Pinhead in space. It's 20 minutes of the movie. It's the third final act, basically. I do like how they explore the origins of the box and the
Yeah.
family of the guy who creates it, the Le
Mhm.
Marchant, and they follow the whole thing through. I think the first segment's the best, where they're in the late 1700s and we're first introduced to Angelique, the demon princess.
Mhm.
Um, the middle section's pretty good too because it fits into 3. Because at the end of 3, we see, she throws the box in the construction site, and then we see this
Mhm.
building with all the configurations. 4 explains that a little bit in the modern, I guess you call it the modern era section of that movie. It gets a little goofy at the end, I'll admit, but
Mm.
I think it's still pretty good. But what the studio did interfere quite a bit in that, and the initial script would have made that movie, in my opinion, would have taken it from an 8 out of 10 to probably a 9 out of 10 because it was going to be a lot more Angelique in the movie, and it's just studios doing what they do sometimes, fucking around with the script when they should just leave them alone. But that's kind of
Exactly.
my thoughts on
Yeah.
4.
Oh, of course. Which one is part 4? Is that the one he's in space?
Yeah,
In
that's
space,
Bloodline. Yeah.
I remember seeing the poster for it in theaters. There we go.
Yeah, and of course
Doesn't
that
say
one
anything
was
about space, but yeah. Oh yeah, it does. Yeah, cool. Just a DVD.
I'm like trying to read the comments here. Okay. Yeah, and of course that's the last one that got released in the theater. I had also heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, there's some rumors that with the original script of Bloodline, initially, we have the character of Paul Merchant who's on there, who's basically trying to finish off what his ancestors started. Initially, they were going to have, I think the idea was to have a descendant of Kirsty Cotton also on the station with him,
Ooh.
which would have brought the whole story full circle because it would have made sense that a descent from the Cotton family and the Merchant family would have joined forces to try and destroy the portal to hell once and for all. But once again, and it
I
would
would
have
have
made,
loved that.
I would have too, because I imagine they could have easily
Yeah.
had Ashley Lawrence come back and basically play an ancestor of her character. So that would, I don't know how much of that's true or not, but if that's what they were originally planning, that would have really, I think, improved the movie quite a bit. But as it is,
Yeah,
Pinhead
agreed.
still has some great lines in it, and there's some really cool kills in it. And we get the Chatter Beast.
Yes. I need to rewatch. I don't remember too much about it, to be honest.
Did either one of you, have you guys both seen like the Shining mini series that they did on TV?
I did the week they first released it, yeah, but I haven't seen it since then.
Yeah, the kid who plays Danny in that one, he's in Hellraiser Bloodline as well.
Oh, okay. As a kid? Or is
Yeah,
he grown up?
he's a kid
Okay.
in it because just a few years he basically plays the son of one of the ancestors of the Le Marchant, and he lives while his dad gets killed, or whatever. And also had I can't
Cool.
remember Kim Myers is in that too. Who is in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, I think it was.
Oh yeah, that's cool. She's not listed here on the back. Bruce Ramsey, Valentina Vargas.
Yeah, Valentina Vargas plays Angelique, so
Okay.
who's kind of become a fan favorite amongst the diehard Hellraiser fans.
Kim Myers does a lot of horror cons. I haven't had the opportunity to meet her, but maybe one day.
Yeah, I think because oftentimes when and of course I didn't make it to anyone, but I think it was last year, the Days of the Dead, when they were in, I think it was either Chicago and or Atlanta, they had a bunch of people from the original Hellraisers, parts 3 and 4 were there. So hopefully one of these days I get to attend when all of them are there.
Yes. I did meet PJ Souls last month at
Hey, right
Awesome.
Got her autograph. That was cool. And sitting right next to her was her boyfriend in the movie. I got his autograph too in a picture, and I forget his name. Oh my god, it's awesome.
Well, I don't remember the actor's name, but I know he played the character Bob because he's the one that gets stabbed.
Bob, right? Because he wrote, "I'll be
right
back" on the. He signed an autograph for me, Rod. I'll be right back.
That's awesome.
Oh, it was cool. Yeah,
that's great. So after Bloodline, then the series. That's when.
Have you guys seen this edition? The Arrow.
Whoa.
Arrow
that looks fantastic.
Their Quartet of Torment, this box set, the first 3 movies.
Oh,
check out the artwork on this. Would you see the holes in the box?
Oh,
and it comes out in layers. So this, you can see the face, right? And then this is a slip cover.
Oh,
wow!
Oh, that's
cool
beautiful.
Is that? It says "I'm in hell."
Oh, neat!
Fantastic edition. I know since you guys are fans, and it comes with this booklet, "Ages of Desire." It's called. But look at all the information and stuff in this.
Oh, awesome!
Thick hardcover book. So check it out. fantastic edition. One of my
Oh,
favorites.
absolutely. So did you get that one online, or was that like when you were in England?
No, this I ordered online. So from Arrow, I believe I had to get it from Arrow UK. It's got chains on the back. I have a region-free player, so I don't worry about it too much. But let me check.
Well, yeah, that helps. That might
Yeah,
have
so
been
it's got the
perfect.
18 mark. So these are the UK editions. So you'll need a region-free player for it. But it's beautiful.
Oh,
Had to
absolutely. Yeah,
show it.
that
Yeah,
that is awesome.
I always
Cool.
love
Cool.
showing this one off. So anyway, go ahead. You were going to ask about another movie.
No, well, I was gonna say after Bloodline, um, this is where at this point Clive Barker is not involved in any of the movies.
Hmm.
The Creepsteins kind of take over, and that's when they go to direct to video. They're basically taking a bunch of spec scripts and just copying paste Pinhead and the box in there and calling it a Hellraiser movie. I
Did
don't
you
have
did you see the cyberspace one? I was always curious about that one.
Yeah, this one.
Hellworld.
So he was in this. Doug Bradley was in
Yeah,
Hellworld,
I think
and
that's
it's
his last appearance as
this.
Pinhead
I
too.
believe so. Is that him? I can't tell.
That's Inferno, and I absolutely have nothing but rage over that movie.
I don't know if I've ever seen it. Um,
You
this
don't
one's
waste your
pretty
time.
good. I liked Hellworld. It's got Lance
You know,
Henriksen, Catherine
yeah,
Winnick from what's that show, Vikings,
Henry
and Superman.
Cavill's in it.
Superman, yeah,
We
Superman.
get
Really?
to see. We answered the long waited question: who would win in a fight between Superman and Pinhead? Well, we found out,
Now
and
you
it ain't
know. Yeah,
Superman.
What?
yeah. I really like this one. I think it's the best one after the third one.
um, I could. It's definitely out of those direct-to-video ones. It's certainly the most
Sure.
entertaining one out of them.
Yes.
You
It's a
do have
smart
Lance
story.
Henrik. It's worth just watching the. It's not to the very end where we have this scene between Lance Henriksen and Doug Bradley appear actually
Yeah.
on screen. That is worth it. If that's one that I'm going to rewatch, that one and Hellraiser Deader is probably the other one I would
Mhm.
watch just because I like the main girl in that one because I thought, she's kind of a flawed character, but she's still likable enough, which was the problem I had with Inferno is
There's
I
one
remember
called Deader.
yes, it's called Deader. I know it's a very
I don't own it.
I
I don't know.
it, it, and my experience with Inferno, that was basically the fifth one. So it's the first one after the first one of the direct to video. And I rented that on the same night that I rented Halloween Resurrection.
Mm.
So
That was a great night for you. That
I
was a
was
great night for you.
already in a bad mood because I turned seriously, and we'll get to this in
Come
3 weeks.
on, Tyler Banks, Buster Rhymes, Michael
In three
Myers.
weeks, we'll be having the Halloween franchise discussion. I've only
It's
seen the first
my
10 or
favorite movie.
I've only seen the first 10 or 15 minutes of Halloween Resurrection. Let's put it that way.
Really?
After retconning, and we'll get to this in a few weeks, retconning what was otherwise a triumphant ending of H2O, I turned it off. And then after ejecting that from my VCR, I put in Hellraiser Inferno. And I was like in full
See,
rage mode because it's the biggest pile of shit that I've ever seen. Um, the whole movie, you're following this unlikable person, and the
Craig
last 5 minutes
Sheffer.
are great, but the rest of it is horrible,
Were
cheap.
these two? These were like twins. I think I remember them. They're like
Yeah,
connected.
they're in there.
Yeah, I must have seen this then.
Now, for some reason, that
Did
movie
this
has
have a
gotten
theatrical? Was this
no,
at the theaters? Okay.
no. That was the first one to go straight to video.
Hmm.
Now, that movie was directed by Scott Derrickson, who's gone on to do a lot of terrific things. A lot of people seem to like Inferno, and I think it's because they've fooled themselves and thinking, well, Scott Derrickson directed it, must have been good. No, he directed it all right, but still a piece of crap. I'm sorry, but I think there's some bias with that one. So that's my thoughts on that. Hellseeker does have the return of Ashley Lawrence, but she's used for about 5 or 10 minutes in it, and that's
Hate
it.
when they do
Yeah,
that.
I have that one. I haven't seen this
Yeah.
one either.
It stars the person we're following is Mr. Mayhem from the Allstate commercials.
Oh,
Oh,
I
that
remember him.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that dude.
I remember him from the Rescue Me show mainly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that show.
Yeah, there's Ashley on the back.
Yep. Basically, we were sold a bill of goods. I felt like, because when that movie that came out after Inferno, so I'm thinking to myself, okay, they learned the errors, the ways. We're gonna come back and make a real good Hellraiser movie. We're gonna tie some things in together from the other movies. No,
Mhm.
we're gonna get basically 5 minutes of Doug Bradley, 10 minutes of Ashley Lawrence, and that's it. The scene between her and Doug Bradley is a great scene in it, but unfortunately, it's 5 minutes of the movie, and the rest of it's basically the same thing as Inferno.
Now, what year
So,
did Hellseeker come out? Is it newer? It doesn't have the year.
like
on there.
2002, 2003, I think, somewhere around
Oh yeah,
there.
2002. It even says straight to video.
Yeah, that one I completely didn't even hear about.
For good reason.
I don't know why you haven't. Look, evil, deadly, immortal. They worked really hard on that tagline.
I know. You can tell that was a Weinstein decision,
Oh,
I'm sure.
look at this. Can you read that? Better than the original, more horror, thrills, and suspense.
No one, you notice no one put their name on that.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's just, it's just written.
I know they just wrote it in there. Yeah. Yeah, that'll get people to watch it.
Was what the Weinstein brothers involved with this? Is that what you said?
Oh yeah, they were behind the scenes. Yeah. So a lot of these movies weren't even really written as Hellraiser movies. So as shitty as Revelations is, at least it was written as a Hellraiser movie, but they made the movie for like $300,000, shot it in 2 weeks. Is the first movie without Doug Bradley, and it was just it could have been a good movie had they put money and time into it, but they didn't, and it's forever known as the Great Value Pinhead. If you've seen the memes, the guy looks like I look like I'm in better shape than that guy that's speaking. He looks like he's 300 pounds or whatever. The
It's
chubby Pinhead.
it's the your mom saying we have Pinhead at home, and that's the one.
You don't need exactly.
It's funny. I think Hellworld is probably one that feels like the script wasn't written to be a Hellraiser movie, and then they sort of adapted it to be a Hellraiser film.
Well, and that's
'Cause
what
it's
most of
almost-
these movies were like. Both
A lot of them
Inferno,
are.
Inferno feels like a Seven knockoff. It feels like a knockoff of the movie Seven, only we're going to make Pinhead the secret killer, but we're not going to see him till the last minute of the movie. Or last 5 minutes.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. And granted, in the first two movies, we don't see a whole lot of Pinhead, but he's shown when he needs to be in those movies. We don't necessarily, we get a brief glimpse in the first one of them, and we just know that he's there, and he shows up when he needs to be in there. It's the same thing with, Robert Englund had maybe 10, 15 minutes of screen time in Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one anyway, and most people would say it's the best one. But with the direct to video, we're just going to shoot this whole movie, and then we're going to insert Doug Bradley in for the last 5 minutes of the movie, basically. And I guess he did not have a very good relationship because they were constantly threatening. I've heard Doug Bradley talk about this on convention, videos, interviews, that at this point the Weinsteins were constantly threatening to fire him, replace him, and by the time Revelations came out, he's like, "Nah, fuck you. I don't want to do these anymore. If you're just gonna throw, puke on the script constantly." So they did Revelations. Judgment was actually an improvement. The guy playing Pinhead, Paul Taylor, he was okay, but he, There's some good scene. I would say
I
Judgment's
don't have
not a
that one
bad
either.
one to check out if you got
Okay.
that one. Do you have that one yet?
I don't know, apparently,
I think
unless
it's
it's
on.
mixed in
You can
somewhere.
watch it for free on Tubi. It's okay. I think Heather Langenkamp actually has a small part in that.
Ooh.
So a
Oh,
little.
really?
Once
Cool.
again, another Nightmare Hellraiser
I
crossover.
don't see
First
it.
Kim Myers, now Heather Langenkamp.
Hmm.
So after a string of all those, eventually, of course, the Weinstein's had some legal problems and lost the rights. Shucks. And Clive Barker got the movie rights back, and then we've got a few years later, or a few years ago, the Hellraiser reboot, as it's called,
Yep.
um, directed by David Bruckner, who I'm like 50-50 on some of his stuff, but came
Yeah.
out, and this one came out with some. This was a movie that should have probably been released in the theater. Is kind of my disappointment
Yeah.
with that. It
Mm.
should have been if, but I mean, Aaron, what did you think of the reboot when it came out?
It's decent. I don't know if I loved it, but
Mm,
I I watched it twice. I watched it first by myself, then I watched it again with my brother, and I thought I don't know, it holds up pretty well. It has its moments. I didn't hate it. Let's say that I didn't hate it.
yeah. Alistair, have you seen the reboot?
It was fantastic. The
Okay.
first,
See, there you go.
We have
yes,
an okay and we have a fantastic. We'll get to
the
mine here, but what did you like about it?
oh, I remember just what was the budget on it. The first time someone activated, other than the beginning, the first time someone else activated it, and you see the room behind them
Hmm.
start shifting back, and you see the lighting come
Oh
in.
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's fantastic! That's a fantastic shot!" And yeah, the new Pinhead, this actress was
Mm.
fantastic in
Oh
this.
yeah, she was.
Hmm.
Yeah, I did like her. She did a good job.
And I like they did play with expectations a bit with when they're in the house
Mhm.
and they heard and they saw one of the Cenobites coming towards, and you hear like a kind of like the cogs going, and all of a sudden you hear a snap, and then you see the Cenobite run. I don't think I've ever seen them run before.
That could be
Yeah,
taken.
that
There are
was
some
cool.
people that like that. There are other people like myself was like, I don't know if I would have done that, but okay, I'll live
Mm.
with it. no,
And oh, go on.
no, go ahead. Go ahead if you had
And,
more to add to that.
and we also have a villain who's so smart. He gets the box, and they cause him to live in constant agony.
Hmm.
And he thinks, you know what's my next great idea? Let me do it again. Yeah.
Let me bargain again and let's see what happens. Yeah, exactly. And that's incidentally like my favorite character, second favorite character, I guess, in that movie was that character.
Yep.
My thoughts on it was um all I wanted was just a good solid Hellraiser movie, and that's pretty much what I got. I think the pros of it is I thought all right, the actor, and I forget his name, but the one that Alistair was just talking about, the character, his name was Roland Voigt, and he's the one that's
Mhm.
got the big contraption. I did like that character. He's very much a, most people would say, almost kind of like a Chenard type of character,
Mhm.
um, or a Frank type of character. But so I did like that character. I thought if you're going to get someone else other than Doug Bradley to play Pinhead, this was the best choice to go with
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
you put any like male actor in there, um, you're just going to get automatic comparisons to Doug Bradley. So taking
Mhm.
someone who's technically a transgender actress, which goes right along with the theme of how Pinhead was written in the book to begin with, was really kind of
Mhm.
brilliant. And I think she did a kick ass job playing it. She
Mhm.
did about as good a job as you could have asked. No one's going to replace Doug Bradley, but she did a great job with that. It was well directed, well made. Looked like there was a decent amount of money in the budget for that.
Mhm.
Story
Yeah.
wise, I think the story had a good story. I liked they did
Mhm.
some different things with it. They weren't going to make a carbon copy. I guess my critiques of it is I didn't give a shit about any of these other human characters really when it came down to it, and that's an age thing because I'm like these characters are all in the early 20s, so I'm not really going to give a shit about them to begin with.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, and they weren't necessarily awful characters; they were just meh. I mean, I've seen worse. They're not the best. They're not the worst.
Yeah, I give you that. They spent too much time, I think, developing the characters, and even then, I
And there
didn't
wasn't
really
much.
care.
The only good
There wasn't
character
much
out of
there
them
to develop.
was the boyfriend. It was like, all right, the main character's name is Riley. She has her brother Matt. Her brother's
Oh my gosh.
boyfriend was about the only one that was like a halfway decent character. He seemed like a generally smart guy for the most part who just
Mhm.
gets caught up in everyone else's bullshit. But and I guess the other thing they kind of held back, I thought, a little bit on the gore. I mean, there's some good gore in it, but there's also a lot of off-screen or cutaway kills where it looks like someone's going to get killed, and then they cut away and we don't see what the hell
Mhm.
happens. And I'm
Mm.
like, why are we doing this? Because they kind of pitched this movie before it came out. Oh, this is going to be the most brutal, most gratuitous Hellraiser movie ever. And it's like,
It was not that. I
not
did
No.
really.
I
Yeah, it
did like
wasn't.
the scene they had one of her friends and they severed the vocal cord. That was
Hmm.
beautiful. It
Yes,
sounds
yes. That
worse than it actually was.
that was like the
Yes.
best. I think I know the scene where they literally like rip her apart almost in half. That was probably the best kill in the whole movie for sure.
I thought the opening kill was pretty good. The
Yeah.
guy in the room.
Yeah, it kind of set the tone
Mm.
for it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like I said, I mean, they did overall. I can't complain about considering the crap we were getting beforehand. Um, I just
True.
wish maybe they
I,
had not. And this goes back to
yeah.
Bruckner. He's very good. He's very good at is directing atmosphere and scenes. This
Mhm.
Mm.
movie had the proper feel of a Hellraiser movie for sure. I just don't think he's
Mhm.
all that great in directing actors based on his other movies, which is a whole nother
Mm.
conversation that I won't let you want to get into that.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm. So
let's put it
when I
this way: there's one other
Mhm.
thing that I liked that he really did was his segment of the original VHS is something I really liked
Mhm.
that he's done. But the some
Well,
of the
which
other
one did
stuff
he do? Which one was his?
that was the very probably like the first segment with the I guess you would call her a succubus. Um,
The one that says "I like you, I like you."
yes,
The big brown eyes. Oh yeah, that's a
yes.
good one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fun.
and they actually did a spin-off of that, and she actually got her own whole movie called
Yes,
Siren, which I think we
Siren.
talked
Yes,
about went on there, and I own that one actually, which
I
they
think you
should
and
have
I
turned
talked
into
about
a.
that, didn't we? Didn't
Yes,
we?
we did.
Yeah,
We talked about
yeah.
that. I think the last time we talked on that, but
I still haven't
um,
watched it. I've got a copy. I think after you and
okay,
I talked, I still haven't watched it yet,
Have
yep.
but I
you
will.
have you seen Beyond?
Yes, I watched it last
Mhm.
night. I had some buddies over. We did an outdoor movie, and I projected
The
it on the side of my house.
just real quick, that skydiving scene, that is
A skydive.
one of the
Oh
best
my
shorts
gosh.
I've ever seen before. It's incredible.
Fantastic. That was my favorite segment in the whole show.
Mhm.
I
All
loved it.
right, gentlemen. Well, I got to take off right now.
Okay.
It was great, wonderful to chat with you all. Aaron, it is good to meet you.
Yes.
Are you on
Nice to meet you
Slack
too. I am not, but I'm on Instagram if you're on there.
Instagram? I'll track you down in a
Yeah.
non-creepy way.
Yeah, of course. No, please do. Look at A&B Horror Movies, and you can also find me at Aaron's Movies 8587.
Yep.
All right. I'll see you
And
all in
he's
the
also
future.
on, he has his
Awesome.
YouTube channel too, as well. All right, Alistair, we'll see you here hopefully later in the month again. So,
Will do.
Yeah,
because
cool.
one
It was
thing
very
is,
nice to
I
meet you.
know you have a
Nice to meet you.
very alternate opinion on Halloween Ends that no one else has. In other
I
words, you
can
actually like the film, so I can't wait to hear why you
I'll
liked it.
I'll defend the shit out of it.
I
You
can't
know, it's
wait.
funny. My
Yeah.
co-host loves it. So
I'm
we can
happy to
make
know
the
I'm not the only one.
if we can make the timing work, Josh, we can get Ben to come on.
Well, if he wants to
Yeah.
stay up late at night, but we'll see what we can do with
Yeah, yeah.
that.
See what we can do. Sure, we could
All right.
pre-record it.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
love it.
cool,
I'll see you all later.
awesome. See you,
All
man.
right. Catch you later. So, we are. Well,
Yeah, we
I
could do a
did-
few more minutes.
Oh yeah. So um yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think I don't know going forward if I heard some rumors they might do a sequel to that one.
Mm.
If they do, I hope they continue with the Cenobites. I think another critique is I think they had too many Cenobites. We alluded to this earlier about the seven dwarfs. I think all
Mm.
you really need is three, four Cenobites tops. You don't need six,
Oh,
seven, eight of
you
them.
don't need the extended family, right?
Yeah, I think if you just keep it simple. I did like the
Yep.
design. I still prefer the OG
Mhm.
design, but I thought the new design looked really awesome.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, the OG, man, you might have this. Do you have the collector's tin?
oh wow,
This is, I think I
look
got
at
this in the
that.
late 90s. The original artwork, right?
I'm
You've
looking.
probably seen this before, right?
I've
It's just the
seen it.
DVD.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just the basic
just
one,
the
but
DVD.
that's pretty cool.
I think I got this at Best Buy back in the day.
I've always
I don't see
wondered
the year on it. Go ahead.
too regarding Hellraiser. Of course, another little theory in the comic book series, there was a group of editions where Kirsty and Elliot Spencer switch places and she becomes the new Hell Priest. And so you could easily play along with the idea that maybe this new version, that the
Mm-hmm.
Jamie Clayton version, could actually be Kirsty, perhaps. I wonder
Oh,
if they will
yeah,
go
cool.
that route in the second if they were to do a sequel, and I don't know if they will or not, but
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. Do you think
who
they'll do
knows?
another Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I heard they're going to. I don't know
Oh,
if it's
really?
going
Oh, cool.
I don't know if it's going to follow what the last one did or if they're just going to do something and just another different one. I had
Mm.
heard something like they're going to have it made like it's going to take place in like the suburbs or something like that. So I don't
Oh, hell yeah.
that's the
I
last
that
I heard about
mm,
it, but we don't know.
that
That was
movie
just
got
a
a lot of
rumor.
hate, but I enjoyed it.
I
Some
liked
great
it.
kills in it. So
I,
there's that one scene with the people in the bus or the van.
oh,
There's the
that's the
bus scene,
best
of course.
scene. I love
But
that
the
scene.
beginning, the van, it goes through the cornfield. That whole
Hmm.
kill sequence is fantastic, I think, because you like the rear view mirror, you can kind of
Uh,
see something. It's amazing.
The only thing I didn't like about that was there was no reason to bring in the Sally character at all. You know,
Yeah,
from the original. Obviously, it's not the same actress because Marilyn Burns had passed away, but there was like,
of
okay,
course.
why do we even have her? Other than they were trying to mimic what Halloween was doing with Laurie Strode is the only thing I could think of. Because they just bring her in
I
just
heard
for
the
her to
same thing.
die. There was no real reason for her whole character be there. But outside of that, I enjoyed it
But I
by and
what I
large.
like is because I've heard they brought her in and then kill her off to kind of make fun of the Halloween trilogy,
Maybe,
bringing
and
Jamie
that
Lee
could have
Curtis
been
back.
if that was their
And I
intent,
like that. I like
then
that
it
idea.
worked. Then
So
yeah,
yeah,
and they
exactly. I like
obviously
that.
were
That's
making
true.
fun of a certain generation or a certain type of people. You know, when they say we're canceling
Mhm.
you, dude, and of course tears them
Yeah,
all apart
yeah.
with
Oh
his
yeah, you're
chainsaw, which I
canceled.
like
The
that. But
the bus. Yeah, yeah. Some Nightmare on Elm
excellent.
Street 2 nods. Yeah, this has been fantastic. Oh, I got this one last Tumblr. Check out this Tumblr.
Oh,
And
that's
they're cool.
awesome.
Look
I
at that.
have
And it glows in the dark. It's like
now
I'm a little kid.
the
Glows in the
the
dark. I love it. Go ahead, man.
This is just a
Oh,
candle I
cool.
bought from a horror convention. The candle itself is all burned out, but I'm still keeping
Oh
this.
yeah, no, that's
So
awesome.
from bought
Nice.
from one of the vendors at a horror con I went to in Denver about over a year
I
ago or
think I
so.
should.
So oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I love going to the horror cons and looking at what the vendors are selling. There was
Oh
this
yeah.
one at TerraCon, this one T-shirt vendor had awesome shirts, by the way. But I got a Hereditary shirt, the movie Hereditary, and
Yeah.
it's like one I've never seen. It's amazing. I love it.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen
I've got
I
one
don't
more
think I
Hellraiser thing.
oh,
The
there
neck,
we go.
the NECA guy.
I think I have seen that now. I've
Yeah,
seen
I mean,
that
this is just
whether
the NECA character. Yeah.
okay, cool.
That's all I've got. What were you gonna
I
say? I interrupted you.
what was I gonna say now? No. No, I was just gonna say yeah, I'm not sure which ones HorrorCons I plan on attending yet next year. I'm just kind of waiting to see what the
Mhm.
lineups are going to be. The closest one to me is the Texas Frightmare in Dallas, which I haven't gone to yet. I They just announced that Ty West is going to be there next year. I'm like, ooh, wow! I wouldn't mind meeting
That's
him
cool.
actually, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of waiting. All right, wherever Doug Bradley is going to be is probably where I'm going to try. Hopefully, it's
He
somewhere in
shows up a
my
lot.
part of the country.
Mhm.
He does. He does. I know they're going to be in Vegas, but it's the
Oh,
Vegas
cool.
Days of the Dead, which I was just at this past year. But that one's going to be in mid-January, and that's just coming right off the holidays. That's just not going to be one I'm going to be able to make.
Yeah, you have
But
to
I'm
save
sure they'll
money
be
up
at
for.
others. So
Yeah, yep. Actually, I said TerraCon. It was actually the Silver Screen. TerraCon was 2 weeks later, and I didn't get to go to that,
where was the
unfortunately.
Silver Screen one at?
It was here in Massachusetts, in
Okay.
Worcester,
Okay.
Worcester, Massachusetts.
Worcestershire. Yeah.
Yeah,
Worcestershire
yes, yeah,
sauce. Yeah.
Worcester. Yeah, it was at the convention center they have out there.
Awesome. They just
Yeah, it was
had
cool.
a.
I met Sean Cunningham. I got his picture and
Oh,
autograph, the
cool.
Friday the 13th guy. I met oh my god, Serena Vincent from Cabin Fever. I had
Cabin
her sign
Fever
my
was also in Tales of Halloween as well. Yeah,
Yes,
I
but she
met her.
signed that.
I saw her
And
at
did
a
meet her.
convention before. Yeah.
And I met the actor who was in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, the actor with the hearing impairment. I met
Okay.
him. I forget his name.
I can't think of his character's name either, but yeah, I know who you're talking about.
And I got to meet Warrington Gillette in person for the first time. We've only done Zoom calls.
Oh, awesome. Yeah,
I got to
from
meet him
part
in
two.
person. So from Part 2, yeah. So that was cool.
Sackhead Jason.
Yes, he was signing sacks too,
Oh, okay, great.
I think. Yeah, awesome. This has been fun, man.
All right, awesome. Well, everyone that did tune in or those that plan on watching later, thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We've got a bit. It's October, so we have a busy month ahead. I have a couple just one-on-one streams coming up, but at the end of the month, last Saturday
Cool.
on October 26th, we will be doing a Halloween group discussion like we did here with Hellraiser and like I've done previously with Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Friday the 13th. So obviously we're going to end the month on a good note. So, or hopefully.
Absolutely.
So until then, we will see you guys later and good night.
Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. So